The first sound was a dull thud against the wood, a sound that didn't belong in the quiet of my afternoon. I ignored it, attributing it to the autumn wind whipping through the trees outside, making the branches scratch against the roof like skeletal fingers. But then came the second thud, and the third. They were fists, violent, rhythmic, desperate. They were the fists of someone who knew the door, who felt entitled to demand it open. And then the voice. That voice. A sharp blade I had learned to dread over 2 years of a private, silent hell. "Open this door, you useless old woman. Open it right now, or I swear to God I'm kicking it in." It was Jessica, my daughter-in-law, Jessica Sterling, the woman my son had brought into my home and my life like a gift, and who had revealed herself to be a plague. The irony of the situation was so bitter, so thick, it almost made me laugh. She screamed like a criminal trying to break into a property, but the twisted truth was that she believed the property was hers. She and my son, Kevin. They had convinced themselves that this house, this home I built with decades of sweat and sacrifice, somehow belonged to them by right. I was sitting in the only armchair they still allowed me to use, a worn old velvet seat in the corner of the living room. The fabric, faded by sun and time, felt like the only friend I had left within these walls. From there, I listened to the blows on the new lock, a solid, metallic sound of resistance against every impact. I had changed every single lock that morning, all of them, from the front door to the back. And no, I didn't ask for permission. Why would I? The house is mine. It always was. "Eleanor, I'm serious. I'm going to sue you. This is property seizure. I'm calling the police." Property seizure of my own house. The words were so absurd that I felt something inside me, something that had been broken and dormant for too long, finally break free with a snap. The fear, that icy knot that formed in my stomach every morning at the sound of their footsteps upstairs, had dissolved. In its place, there was only clarity. A cold, crystal-clear, and unforgiving clarity. About 30 minutes later, the sound of another car overlapped Jessica's screams. The engine rumbled in a familiar way, a sound my mother's heart would recognize anywhere. It was Kevin's car. My son. The man to whom I had given everything. The boy I raised as if he were my own blood, even though he wasn't. When he got out of the vehicle, I peeked through the peephole. My breath caught in my throat. He didn't bring words of consolation. He didn't bring an attempt to understand. He was carrying a crowbar. The heavy metal bar gleamed under the dim porch light. In that instant, I knew. The moment had arrived. The moment I had been secretly preparing for months. Every step planned in the darkness of my small room was about to unfold. "Mom, open the door." His voice was controlled, but I knew that tone. It was the calm before the storm. The tense silence that preceded the explosion of insults, the veiled threats, the cold disdain that had forced me to sleep in the utility closet of my own home. "Open up now, or I'll smash this door down." I moved closer, feeling the vibration of the wood under my palm. But I didn't open it. I spoke through the solid oak that separated us, my voice firmer than I expected. "I'm not opening it, Kevin. This is my house, and the two of you don't live here anymore." The silence that followed lasted 3 exact seconds. 3 seconds of disbelief. And then the explosion. "Your house?" His roar made the door tremble. "This house belongs to all of us. We've lived here for 2 years. You can't just kick us out like this." Jessica, sensing support, joined the chorus of indignation. "You have to give us prior notice. This is illegal. I'm going to record you and post it online so everyone can see what kind of mother you are." Recordings. It was funny she should mention that, because I had recordings too. Plenty of them. And not just from this moment. "Go away. I said, my voice cutting through their hysteria. "Talk to a lawyer if you want. I've already spoken to mine." That stopped them. Through the peephole, I saw doubt flicker in Kevin's eyes. The crowbar in his hand suddenly seemed heavier, more uncertain. Jessica, however, only intensified her fury, like a cornered animal. "You don't have money for a lawyer. You can barely afford your medication. Eleanor, stop lying." But I wasn't lying. The decision, the seed of rebellion, wasn't planted in a single day. It was cultivated slowly, watered by a constant stream of daily humiliations, of small cruelties that, added together, eroded my soul. But there was an exact moment, a final straw that broke the camel's back. It happened 3 months ago, on a Tuesday afternoon. The late afternoon sun streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating dust particles in the air. I was cleaning, as always. I had just finished preparing their dinner. Roasted chicken with sweet potatoes, Kevin's favorite dish since he was a boy with scraped knees and a smile that could light up a room. The aroma filled the house, a scent of home that no longer belonged to me. Jessica entered the kitchen, the sound of her heels on the linoleum like the clicks of a stopwatch, marking my time of servitude. She dropped her dirty plate on the table, with food scraps stuck to it. She didn't even bother to take it to the sink, which was just a few steps away. She just left it there, a monument to her indifference, and fixed me with a glare. "Tomorrow, I want you to wash the curtains in the master bedroom." Her voice was devoid of any tone of request. It was an order. "And since you don't do anything all day, you might as well iron all our clothes for the week." "You don't do anything all day." The sentence echoed in my head, ricocheting off the walls of my skull. I, who woke up at 5 in the morning to have their breakfast ready when they came downstairs. I, who cleaned every corner of a 3-bedroom house that they dirtied with stunning carelessness. I, who slept in a 6 by 7-foot utility closet while they occupied the master suite with its private bath and walk-in closet, the bedroom that had been mine and my late husband Richard's for 30 years. I tried to stay calm, to swallow the lump of anger rising in my throat. "Jessica," I said, my voice a little shaky, "I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I can wash the curtains the day after." She spun around, her gaze pure ice. "A doctor's appointment? And who's supposed to take you? We don't have time to be your personal chauffeur. If you want to go, take the bus." The bus. I was 65 years old, with knees that popped with every step and arthritis that turned mornings into a battle. The clinic was a 40-minute drive away. By bus, with the transfers and the walking, it would take nearly 2 hours. But that didn't matter. Nothing I needed ever mattered. At that moment, Kevin walked into the kitchen, drawn by the smell of dinner. I explained the situation, still with a naivete that now embarrasses me, hoping he would intervene. Hoping the boy I took to countless doctor's appointments, the boy for whom I spent sleepless nights monitoring his fever, would remember something. Anything. But he just sighed, a sound of pure annoyance. "Mom, Jessica's right. We can't be at your beck and call all the time. You're a grown woman. You need to learn to do things on your own." Learn to do things on your own? As if I hadn't spent the last 40 years doing everything on my own. As if I hadn't raised a child by myself after his biological father abandoned us. As if I hadn't worked 2 jobs to give him an education, clothes, food, and a future he now took for granted. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on my makeshift bed in the closet, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the sound of their laughter coming from the living room. They were watching a movie, eating the popcorn I had bought, living their lives in the spaces that were once mine, while I existed on the margins, a ghost in my own home. And something in me, in that dark and silent night, either finally broke or perhaps was finally fixed. Because for the first time in 2 years, I saw everything with an absolute and terrifying clarity. This wasn't life. It was survival. And I hadn't survived so much in my life. The loss of a husband, the struggle of being a single mother, the financial hardships to end my days like this. That day, I didn't go to the doctor's appointment. I took the bus, yes, but to a different destination. I went downtown to an imposing office building I only knew from passing by. Crumpled in my coat pocket was a piece of paper with a name, Arthur Thorne. I had found him online after hours of secret research on my phone late at night. The description read, one of the city's top eviction and family law attorneys. His office was quiet and smelled of old books and strong coffee. A man in an expensive suit with a gaze that seemed to see right through people, Mr. Thorne listened to me in silence for nearly an hour. I told him everything. The temporary move that became permanent, the way I was slowly pushed out of my own life, the closet, Jessica's demands, Kevin's indifference. When I finished, he asked me a single question. Mrs. Vance, is the deed to the house in your name? I opened my purse and took out a folder. Inside was the deed to the house, a document that was solely in my name. I had bought the house in 1992 with inheritance money from my mother years before I adopted Kevin, years before Jessica even existed in our lives. Arthur Thorne reviewed the document carefully, his fingers gliding over the paper. Mrs. Vance, you have every legal right to reclaim your property. They are, legally speaking, tenants at will without a lease. We can begin the unlawful detainer process immediately. How long would it take? I asked, my voice a whisper. Between 2 to 4 months, depending on whether they put up a legal fight. But with the proof you have, the clear ownership documentation, and the fact that they don't pay rent, the case is heavily in your favor. Proof. It was then that I showed him my other secret. I opened the voice memo app on my phone. For 6 months, I had recorded everything. Every insult, every humiliation. Every time Jessica called me a dead weight or an old freeloader. Every time Kevin ignored me when I asked for help. I had over 50 audio clips on my phone, an arsenal of their own cruelty. I played the first one, Jessica's voice, sharp and clear. Eleanor, clean the bathroom again. You left hair in the sink and that's disgusting. I don't know why you even bother getting up if you can't do anything right. I played another, Kevin's voice, talking to Jessica, thinking I wasn't listening. My mom is unbearable lately. I think we should look for a nursing home for her. She's useless now. Arthur Thorne listened in silence, his face becoming a stone mask. When I finished, I saw something in his eyes, a mixture of professional indignation and human sadness. Mrs. Vance, this is systemic emotional abuse. This not only gives you the right to recover your house, but it could also warrant a lawsuit for damages. I didn't want to sue for money. I just wanted peace. I just wanted to sleep in my own bedroom again. I wanted to walk through my house without feeling like every step was an intrusion. I wanted to be myself again.
So we planned everything. The changing of the locks, the legal notice, the next steps. He told me that the quickest, most shocking way to establish control would be the lock change, followed by a formal notice from his office. The attempted break-in, he predicted, would be the icing on the cake, giving me all the legal grounds for a restraining order if needed. I paid him a $2,500 retainer, money they thought I didn't have, money I had secretly saved for years, in an account I opened when my husband Richard passed away, an account Kevin never knew existed, a lifeline that was now my salvation. And today, finally, I executed the plan. The sound of Kevin's crowbar on the door was deafening. Each impact of metal on wood made the frame shudder, but the lock held. I had paid extra for reinforced security deadbolts. The locksmith had given me a strange look when I requested the strongest ones he had. "Trouble with break-ins in the neighborhood, ma'am?" he'd asked. I wish I could have told him the truth, that the robbery had already happened, that they had stolen my dignity, my peace, my home. But I just smiled and said it was just a precaution. Outside, Jessica was shouting to the neighbors, who were starting to peek out their windows. "My crazy mother-in-law has lost it. She's locked us out. We're her family and she's treating us like dogs." Family. The word they loved to use when they needed something from me, but which disappeared whenever I needed something from them. I remembered last Christmas. Jessica had invited her mother, Linda, and other relatives to spend the holidays. Well, with them, because I wasn't invited to the dinner table. "Mom, the table only seats 6, and we're already tight with Jessica's family. You understand, right? Besides, you prefer to eat early anyway." They sent me to have dinner at 5 in the afternoon, alone in the kitchen, while they toasted in the dining room with wine that I had paid for, because that never changed. Even while treating me like a maid, even while humiliating me daily, I was still paying the household bills, the electricity, the water, the gas, the internet. It all came out of my $1,800 monthly Social Security benefit, an amount Kevin considered my fair contribution, since I was living for free. For free, in my own house. The lock finally gave a little with a sharp crack. Kevin noticed and hit it harder. The door's almost down. I had already called the police 10 minutes earlier. I explained the situation calmly. "My son is trying to forcibly enter my property. I have the documents that prove the house is mine. He has no legal right to be here." The dispatcher said they were sending a patrol car immediately, but before they arrived, something changed. I heard the voice of another neighbor, Mr. Peterson, the kind gentleman who lived 3 houses down. "Young man, Kevin, what are you doing? You can't break down your mother's door?" Jessica spat back. "Mind your own business, old man. This is a family matter." Mr. Peterson had been kind to me over the last 2 years. Sometimes he would wave when I took out the trash early in the morning, before Jessica woke up and assigned me more chores. Once he gave me oranges from his tree. "Mrs. Vance, you look tired lately," he had said. Tired. Such a small word to describe the exhaustion of living like an intruder in your own existence. "But you are damaging private property," Mr. Peterson insisted. "I'm going to have to call the police." Kevin stopped hitting the door. "We already called them. She's the one who committed a crime. She locked us out without warning." Without warning. As if 2 years of abuse hadn't been warning enough. The sirens arrived 5 minutes later. 2 patrol cars, 4 officers. Jessica rushed toward them with tears that appeared out of nowhere. An impressive talent. "Officers, thank God. My mother-in-law threw us out on the street. We live here. This is our house." One of the officers, a man in his 40s with a tired expression, looked at Kevin with the crowbar in his hand. "Sir, put that down immediately." Kevin obeyed, but with contained rage. "Officer, my mother changed the locks without telling us. We live here. She can't just kick us out." The officer approached the door and knocked. "Ma'am, could you open the door, please?" I opened it slowly. The officers looked at me. A 65-year-old woman, thin, with gray hair pulled back in a simple bun. They probably saw what everyone else saw, a frail, perhaps confused old lady. But I wasn't confused. For the first time in years, I had absolute clarity. "Officers, this is my house." My voice was calm and steady. "I can show you the documents." I went to retrieve the folder I had prepared, the property deed, the utility receipts in my name, everything perfectly organized, thanks to Arthur Thorne. The officer reviewed every paper attentively. Then he looked at Kevin. "Do you pay rent?" Kevin stammered. "She's my mother.
Jessica interrupted. "It's her obligation to give us shelter. We're her family." The officer sighed. He had seen this before. It was obvious. "Ma'am, if the property is in your name and they neither pay rent nor have a lease, you have the right to ask them to leave. They can seek legal counsel, but they cannot force entry." Jessica exploded. "This is unbelievable. Call your supervisor. This can't be legal."
The other, younger officer intervened. "Ma'am, it is completely legal. The property owner has the right to decide who lives in her house. If you wish to dispute this, you must go to court." Kevin stared at me fixedly, and in his eyes, I saw something that broke my heart. Not regret, not sadness, just calculation. He was thinking of his next move, of how to regain control. "Mom," he said, his voice softer, the voice he used to manipulate, "I understand you're upset, but this is extreme. Where do you expect us to sleep tonight?" Before, I would have given in. That tone would have made me waver, but not anymore. "Kevin, you have your wife's family, you have friends, you have resources. You'll figure something out." Jessica let out a bitter, contemptuous laugh. "Resources? We have nowhere to go. And this is your fault. I hope you can sleep knowing you left your son on the street." The officers exchanged glances. One of them spoke to me in a low voice. "Ma'am, are you sure about this? We understand it's your right, but he's your son." I looked him straight in the eye. "Officer, for 2 years I slept in the utility closet while they occupied my bedroom. I woke up at 5 a.m. every morning to make them breakfast. I cleaned, I cooked, I washed their clothes, and they never once said thank you. They called me a freeloader. They treated me worse than an employee, because at least an employee gets a paycheck and a day off." The silence that followed was heavy. The officer nodded slowly. "I understand. I'm sorry." Jessica tried one last time. "Eleanor, at least let us get our clothes. You can't hold our things hostage." I had already planned for this. "All your clothes are packed in suitcases. You can pick them up tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, with a police escort if you wish." The officers escorted them to their car. Jessica was still shouting, "You're going to regret this. I'm going to tell everyone. The whole world is going to know what kind of a mother you are." Let her tell them. Let her scream it. Because I would be telling my version too, and I had the proof. I closed the door. The click of the new lock sounded final, a period at the end of a painful chapter of my life. The silence of the house enveloped me, but it was a different kind of silence, not the tense silence of tiptoeing around so as not to bother them. It was the silence of peace. For the first time in 730 days, I was alone in my house, and it was glorious. I sat on the living room sofa, the sofa I hadn't dared to use for months because Jessica said it was her space. I poured myself a cup of tea. I turned on the TV to the channel I wanted, not the one they chose. And then the tears came. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. Tears of relief, of pain, of grief for the time lost. That night, Kevin's phone calls came. I didn't answer. On the 5th call, I picked up. He was in an expensive hotel complaining about the cost. I suggested he find something cheaper or stay with Jessica's family. He hung up, furious, threatening to sue. I smiled. Let him try. The next day, they arrived promptly at 10, with Jessica's mother, Linda, in tow. A woman with a sharp face and a hawk's glare who had always despised me. They stormed in like a hurricane, but I was prepared. The suitcases were ready.
When they tried to claim furniture, I calmly demanded receipts, which I knew they didn't have. I, on the other hand, had kept all of mine. Jessica, realizing she was losing, pulled out her phone. "I'm recording this. I want the whole world to see how you treat us." She filmed me, narrating for her social media followers about the world's worst mother-in-law, the heartless mother who threw her own son out on the street. I let her record. I remained silent, my face calm. I knew her version of the story was just the first shot in a war to come, and I was armed for battle. The war began the next morning.
And recording number 27, the worst of all. It was my 65th birthday. I had hoped that maybe, just maybe, Kevin would remember. But no, they left without a word. That evening, I overheard Jessica on the phone with her mother, Linda. I had left my phone recording in the kitchen, out of habit. "Yeah, Mom, it's her birthday today." "No, we didn't say anything. Why bother? She'll just get sentimental and annoying. Besides, Kevin says the best gift we can give her is to ignore her. That way, she understands she's not important anymore." Listening to it again still hurt, but it no longer broke me because now I had power. Now I had control. Jessica's smear campaign intensified. Within a week, her video had 20,000 views. Local media began to cover the story. "Heartless mother kicks son out onto the street." The headlines were sensational but effective. I received threats. "We're going to find you, old lady. You deserve to have your house burned down." I had to call the police, who increased patrols on my street. In the midst of all the hatred, there was a flash of kindness. A young woman named Sarah, who worked with Jessica, contacted me. "Mrs. Vance, I saw her video and I need to talk to you. Jessica always talks badly about you at work. She says she hates you, that she wishes you would die so they could have the house. She's lying, and I can't stand by and watch her destroy your reputation." Sarah agreed to provide a written statement. It was gold. Finally, Arthur Thorne called me. "It's time, Mrs. Vance. They've had enough rope. Now we're going to use it." Metaphorically, of course. The plan was simple and devastating. I would create my own video. No crying, no drama, just facts, evidence, documents. I spent 2 days preparing. I sat in front of my phone, took a deep breath, and pressed record. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am 65 years old, and this is my side of the story. My voice was firm. I showed the deed to the house. I showed the receipts for the bills I paid. I explained that for 2 years I had lived in the utility closet of my own house. And now, I said, looking directly at the camera, I'm going to play a few of the 53 audio recordings that document the emotional abuse I endured so you can hear the truth. I played the first recording, Jessica's voice, unmistakable. "Eleanor, you're a burden. I don't know why Kevin doesn't send you to a facility already." I played the second, Kevin's voice. "Mom, you're exaggerating as always. No one treats you badly. The problem is you're too sensitive." I played 5 more. Then I showed the text messages, the screenshots, everything dated, everything verifiable. This is the truth Jessica doesn't want you to know. She is not the victim. I was the victim for 2 years. And when I finally found the courage to reclaim my home, my dignity, and my life, they decided to destroy my reputation. I uploaded the video at 8 p.m. In an hour, it had 10,000 views. In 2, 50,000. The tide began to turn. The comments changed. "Oh my God, this changes everything. Jessica is a liar. The recordings are proof enough." Jessica responded with fury, screaming in a new video that the recordings were fake, but it was too late. She had lost her composure, showing her true face. Kevin tried a different approach, claiming I had mental health issues, but I was prepared. I posted a second, shorter video showing a recent medical report attesting to my perfect cognitive health. Then I made all 53 unedited audio recordings available in a public online folder. Total transparency. The final blow was the live stream they held to clear everything up. People bombarded them with questions they couldn't answer. Why does the voice in the recording sound exactly like you? Is it true you lived in her house for free? The stream became chaotic. They had no proof, only lies, and the public saw right through them.
Their house of cards collapsed in real time for thousands to watch. The fallout was immediate and brutal. 3 days after my interview with the most respected local news channel, Jessica was fired. The cosmetics company she worked for couldn't have its image associated with an abuser. Kevin also faced consequences. His colleagues ostracized him, and his boss suggested he take some time off to resolve his personal issues. It was a euphemism for being fired. They blamed me, of course. "You destroyed my life," Kevin's text message read. "But I didn't destroy anything. They did. I just turned on the light." Arthur Thorne called me with good news. Their lawyer withdrew the lawsuit. They don't have a case, and they know it. And now we are going to sue them. We sued for emotional distress, abuse, and defamation. When the summons was served, Jessica's mother, Linda, showed up at my door. She came to ask me to drop the lawsuit, saying they were ruined. "Linda, for 2 years they ruined me, and no one came to ask them to stop. No one." It was then that she told me, "Jessica is pregnant, 3 months." The world stopped. I was going to be a grandmother. But that didn't change anything legally, as Arthur confirmed. Pregnancy was not an excuse for abuse. The court date arrived. The evidence was overwhelming. The testimonies from Sarah and Mr. Peterson, the recordings, the documents. Their lawyer tried to argue with the pregnancy, but the judge was firm. The verdict was in my favor. They were ordered to pay me $30,000 in compensation. In the courthouse hallway, they confronted me. Tiffany, her belly now showing, screamed that I had ruined everything. Kevin, his eyes filled with tears, begged for us to fix things. "We stopped being a family, Kevin, the day you sent me to sleep in the utility closet," I said, my voice unwavering. This wasn't a mistake. It was 2 years of conscious decisions, and now you have to live with the consequences. I left them there, facing the reality they themselves had created. In the following weeks, a peaceful silence settled in the house. I began to live again. I sold the house filled with bitter memories and bought a smaller, more modern apartment. With the money, I took the trip I had always dreamed of. I went to Spain, my grandparents' homeland. The $500 monthly payments began to arrive. I decided I didn't want that money for myself. I opened a special savings account. Every cent they paid me went into it. I would donate it all to a shelter for elderly women who were victims of family abuse. I discovered I wasn't alone. There were thousands of women like me, invisible, mistreated, silenced by shame. My story, which became a book at the request of many, gave them a voice. The book, The House of Silence, became a phenomenon within the community of older adults. I received thousands of letters and emails. "You gave me courage. You saved my life." 4 years passed. 4 years of peace, of purpose, of true friendships. One day, the doorbell rang. It was Kevin. He looked older, defeated. He and Jessica had separated 6 months earlier. It turns out she was as cruel to me as she was to you. And when I could no longer give her the life she wanted, she left me. She took Ethan, my grandson. She won't let me see him. She says I'm a bad father. And she's right, because she learned from me. She learned that it's okay to discard people when they're no longer useful, just like I did to you. His tears were real this time. He apologized, truly, without expecting forgiveness. He just wanted me to know that he finally understood. He said before leaving, "Ethan asks about you sometimes. Jessica tells him you're dead. But someday, when he's older, I want to tell him the truth. I want him to know he had a grandmother who would have loved him." Months passed. I started receiving packages in the mail. Photos of Ethan, his first day of school, his birthday, a note from Kevin. I thought you'd want to watch him grow up, even from a distance. 5 years after I changed those locks, I received an unexpected message. It was from Jessica. "Ethan is 8 years old now. He found your book, saw your picture. He wants to meet the brave grandma." My heart pounded. Risk my peace? I talked to my friends, to my lawyer. The decision was mine. I would meet him, but on my terms. Neutral territory, clear boundaries. On Saturday, I saw him in the park. A boy with dark hair and curious eyes. He sat beside me on the bench. "I read your book. You were very brave. Is it true that I am your grandson? Yes, I said, my throat tight. You are my grandson. A huge smile lit up his face. That's good. I always wanted to have a grandma. We spent an hour together. Now I see him once a month. Slowly, I'm getting to know my grandson. I have no relationship with Jessica or Kevin. I probably never will, but that doesn't matter. Today, at 70, my life is full. I have peace, purpose, friends who are my chosen family. The shelter I helped fund bears my name, the Eleanor Vance Support Center. The lessons I learned were hard, but invaluable. I learned that kindness without limits is self-destruction, that love doesn't mean tolerating everything, and that it is never, ever too late to choose yourself. My story isn't about kicking a son out. It's about welcoming myself back in. It's about finding courage when you think you have none left. And if there is anyone reading this suffering in silence in their own home, I want you to know you are not alone. Your pain is valid, and you have the right to choose your peace over any family obligation. Because in the end, the only thing that truly belongs to us is our dignity. And no one has the right to take that away from you. I reclaimed mine, and you can reclaim yours, too.